Blood Moon Haste released back when Arbiter Vildred and Maid Chloe were meta, and I really feel like I'm lying to you when I say that. Maid Chloe, when was she meta? Well, she did spike in popularity a few seasons ago because of her skin, but that's really it. The same applies to Arbiter Vildred, but let's be honest, who even uses Arbiter Vildred in RTA anymore? Well, the only time you use Arbiter Vildred is when you're clearing adventure, and now with every DPS having skill nullifier, invincibility, evade, stuff of that nature, you have to ask yourself why even bring Arbiter Vildred, because once he revives, he can't even damage the enemy DPSs. It is what it is, and let's be honest, Arbiter Vildred in no way, shape or form is gonna kill a Abyssal Euphine, a Candy, a Arowell for that matter. He really does struggle with that. So again, the main primary units that Blood Moon Haste is supposed to counter are not meta anymore, and so Blood Moon Haste himself kinda phased off. You might argue, wait, there are other revive units, but we will tackle that argument in a moment. First, I need to explain Blood Moon Haste's skills, because some of you might not even be aware. That's how outdated this unit is. Grudge. When an enemy is revived, it grants all allies a barrier and immunity for 1 turn and resets cooldown of Moon Slash. By the way, Moon Slash is a lame name. It should be renamed to something like Blood Moon Slash, or Crescent Slash, or Eclipse Slash, or Moonlight Slash, even if you're too lazy, or Dark Side of the Moon, something, I don't know. I feel like Moon Slash is such a lame name. Really? Moon Slash, it doesn't even roll off the tongue really well. Anyways, to ML Haste's credit, the barrier is pretty strong. The reset on his S3 is pretty huge. By the way, this was in a time where reducing cooldowns and resetting was actually pretty difficult. Rarely do you have units that could pull that thing off. In fact, I think ML Haste released in a time where Izeria Tamarin could have been common. I really can't recall, but that's the issue, is that you rely on your enemy reviving, and can you in honest good faith tell me that the barrier can hold up to a Gab triple torrent Arbiter Vildred? Because again, torrent set wasn't even a thing back in the days, so I doubt that this barrier could tank Arbiter Vildred anymore. And in a meta where unbuffable, where, you know, reducing enemy skills, I mean buffs by 1 turn is more common by the day, can you in honest faith tell me that the barrier and immunity are gonna matter? And let's say you do use the barrier and immunity value, it's only 1 turn, so what if the enemy revives and then you take the turn, you're unable to kill whatever he revived, there goes your barrier, and then your enemy dumps all their DPS. GG, well played, there's nothing you can do. What if the enemy revives and then their Conqueror Lilius presses S3? Well, there goes all your barriers. It's just, how do you min-max an ability like Grudge? Like, maybe you can time when the Arbiter Vildred revives, but even that doesn't sound ideal now, does it? Why not pick Briarwitch Izeria and just extinct the guy? Or, again, there's just something about ML Haste that is counter-redundant, where why are you even allowing the enemy to revive in the first place? Why not just extinct them? Why not Briseria them? Why not this? Why not that? That's the issue. It's just so difficult to min-max his skill. Anyways, about his S1. His S1 is a single target attack that dispels 1 buff, and you can use 10 souls to ignore ER. One of the most useless skills I've ever seen in the game, but it is what it is. If you can't min-max his S2, you can't even min-max his S1, because it's only dispelling 1 buff, but I guess it does have ignore ER, and I guess it's 100% instead of 75%. Let's get into his S3 now. Attacks with a scythe, recovering health of all allies. Penetrates defense but cannot trigger a critical hit. Damage dealt and amount recovered increase proportional to the caster's max health. Decreases damage suffered by 10%. When this skill is available, and of course, only the strongest damage reduction applies. Now the problem is, Aureus has better damage mitigation. Escort is becoming more common by the day, thanks to Arowell Pira, and Smallgate clearly wants to give escort to more units, but they don't know how to do it. Because, I mean, remember when Crow was about to get that, but you needed S imprint or something? I don't know, man. It's some stupid shenanigans. Right, so what are the problems with this skill? It's one of the few skills in the game that you need to hold. Spectre wants to throw S3 so her S1 can hit multiple people. What's his face? Violet uses his S3 at max focus because, well, if he uses his S3 and his S3 goes on cooldown, he loses the ability to counterattack. Laia wants to pop buttons because guess what? If her S3 is available, she doesn't get the cooldown reduction. You have units who want to pop buttons. You have units that don't want to hold skills. The only unit that I can think of who wants to hold a skill is ML Cowarick into something like Angel of Flight, because yes, your S3 reduces debuff durations by 1 turn. So when the Angel of Flight uses S3, Mediator uses S3. That is the only instance where a unit wants to hold a skill. Now we've already established that Blood Moon Haste's S2 only works against Revive, so when you sort the units that have Revive buff, you only find a few. Rowana, Maid Chloe, Misty Chain. And we all know that isn't true. These aren't the only Revive units in the game. These are just the only units with Revive buff. That's the issue. These are the only units with Revive buff. You have units like Spirit Celine who have full team Revive plus Immortality, by the way. You have Ruel, another dead unit, but her Revive is full HP with Invincibility. You have Destina, who revives every dead ally at 30% HP, which isn't the best, but it's also pretty good because it's AoE. You have a Ravi, who revives an ally, gives them 100% CR, and gives them skill nullifier. And then you have Arbiter Vildred, the main man himself, reviving himself and also giving himself 100% CR on top of it. And then you have Shooting Star Achates, which is another dead unit. So already the amount of units used against ML Haste are very low. It's such a small sample size. And let's be honest, no one's going to pick Rowana into ML Haste. Maybe you've picked someone who is countering a lot, like Light Aiden or Candy or Euphine, and then the enemy picks Rowana. Are you really going to answer back with ML Haste? Doesn't sound likely, I'll be honest with you. No one picks Misty Chain, and we've already established not as many people are picking Maid Chloe anymore. No one's gonna play Shooting Star Achates. Ruel is very outdated, no one's gonna play her. And again, a Ravi, S3 slam, boom, the revived ally has 100% CR plus skill nullifier, so even if your ML Haste takes a turn, he can't even S3 that unit because that unit has skill nullifier. So like, what can you do into that? Nothing. Okay, Arbiter Vildred revive, that is literally the only common enemy, and again, the best way to deal with Arbiter Vildred is to not allow him to revive in the first place. Use Extinction, use what's his face? Bryce Syria anti-revive. Hell, use Sinful Angelica S3, give her immortality and don't allow Arbiter Vildred to revive. It's actually viable because everyone builds their RB slow for some reason. And yeah, again, the best way to deal with revive is to not let the enemy revive, and that's the issue with ML Haste. He wants the enemy to revive in order to have any value. And again, when Shooting Star Achates revives an ally, sure, they don't get the immortality buff, but again, no one plays Shooting Star Achates for a reason, because Ignore ER is an amazing soul burn. Very, very productive. You know, Nako, Lua, Conquer Lilius, stuff like that. Amazing, amazing. Truly. What can you do with this unit? You just can't do anything, unfortunately. His counters are not common, and when Spirit Celine revives their allies, you know, they all have 1 turn immortality, so what can ML Haste do? Nothing. It's just you're watching them. They either take a turn and then you snipe them, but that's the issue. Can you snipe Spirit Celine herself? No. They're gonna die, and then Spirit Celine's cooldown is gonna go down, and then she's gonna revive them again. One of the few instances where your S2 actually does anything, where, you know, you get more than just 1 proc, you get multiple procs in a battle. But let's be honest, if Spirit Isoline revived a second time in the same battle, your team is probably dead. And by the way, Spirit Isoline just has so much damage that I'll be honest with you, I don't think ML Haste's S3 healing is enough to counteract that. And by the way, again, I know ML Haste's barrier is pretty strong, but it's one turn. Spirit Isoline gets more attack in her S2. Her S1 already penetrates a lot of defense for God knows why. So, really, the odds are so stacked against ML Haste that I genuinely cannot fathom where to go with this unit. Now, the point of this video is to propose ways to buff him, ways to stay in his gimmick while not really pushing the boundaries. We don't want ML Haste to be OP. That is a no-no. So, here's my proposal to fix ML Haste. In his S2, they should add when an enemy revives, he gets 50% CR. And listen to me. His S3 needs to dispel before it attacks. So that way, when a Ravi slams her S3, guess what? You dispel that skill nullifier, and maybe, just maybe, you can snipe that squishy unit, because let's be honest, ML Haste S3 doesn't do that much damage. Maybe when Destino revives, boom, you CR push yourself and you snipe that 30% HP unit. When Maid Chloe revive buff procs, boom, you snipe that unit. When Abyssal Euphine revives with Holy Sacrifice, boom, you delete that barrier and then you strike down that unit. Now, one way people have said to fix ML Haste is to give his S3 extinction, but again, I don't think that's the way, because his S2 needs the enemy to revive in order to do anything. So if you give ML Haste extinction, again, that's the issue with ML Haste. He needs the enemy to revive in order for his S2 to actually shine. So like, giving ML Haste extinction kind of proves our point, where the whole point, not the whole point, the best counter to anti-revive, or my bad, the best counter to revive is to just not allow your enemy to revive in the first place, aka Bryceria and extinction through Arunca S3, Lilibet S3 if that's even real, Cigarette S3, stuff like that. You know, I can't think of all the extinction units, but the point stands. As it is right now, ML Haste does nothing. Now, I guess another way you could buff ML Haste is you can make his S3 kind of like a Ravi S3, where the more the enemy revives, or let's say if the enemy revives 3 allies, your S3 starts to hit harder. It starts to scale the damage, it starts to scale the barrier, and it starts to scale the healing. I don't know, I feel like that would be too unfair into like Destina or Maid Chloe, but we all know Destina was never a fair unit in the first place. So yeah, it really is a matter of, hey, the only way to make ML Haste strong is to completely kill revive, and I don't think that's the way. So yeah, here's my proposed change. Just make him get 50% CR with his S2, and make him dispel buffs before he attacks. And boom, you have a viable unit. Spirit Isoline revives someone, boom, you snipe that. Euphine revives with Holy Sacrifice, boom, you snipe that. Enemy revives using a Ravi S3, sure, maybe the enemy takes a turn because they have more overall CR, but again, you remove that skill nullifier and boom, you snipe with your S3. Remember when Delibet released? She was one of the worst units in the game because she didn't have a CR push. She was just there. You know, if the enemy pops all their debuffs, you can't do anything about it. You just sit there. Even though Delibet cleansed herself, she hasn't cleansed the team. She has to take a turn, and then she can slam S3, which, by the way, in that time where she cleanses herself, she could just be debuffed again. That's the stupid thing, is that they took a unit like Delibet, who was released pretty bad, and they solved her by giving her a CR push. And then you have units like ML Haste, who, you know, you don't even need his S3 to dispel anything. Just give him a CR push and already he will be very viable. In fact, maybe take it to the next extreme. If enemy revives, you push back all enemies. That could work. Again, it's in the air what happens from here, but just allow his S2 to CR push him, and if you let his S3 dispel before it attacks, then perfect. You know, your biggest counters no longer counter you. The units you're supposed to snipe, you can snipe. You know, because again, Spirit Isoline, revive, immortality, nothing you can do. Iravi revives, that unit has skill nullifier. What can you do? Nothing. Holy Sacrifice, oh, enemy barrier is too big. What else is there? Shooting Star doesn't count. Destina revives, boom, you can snipe one of those units because they're 30% HP. Oh, Made Chloe revived, boom, you snipe one of those units. Again, it's such a simple miracle fix. Maybe Ruel reviving an enemy at 100% HP, you can't do anything about that, but hey, it is what it is. Some revives are just built better than other revives. In any case, I've overstayed my welcome. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.